Are you an aspiring notary looking to join millions of other notaries? Start your journey with the Notary Public Foundation by Derek Spruill. This essential guide provides the step-by-step process to becoming commissioned in your state. Don't stumble into the role. Walk into it with confidence. Grab your copy of the Notary Public Foundation by Derek Spruill on Amazon today.
Welcome to Notary Knowledge.
We're really glad you're here.
Yeah, we definitely are. And, before we get started, we want to remind you to check out our video podcast, No Notary, with Montes Travis, and, of course, Marylyn's 90 Seconds of Notary.
Right, and please take a second to rate the show, subscribe, and share the podcast with others. It really helps us out.
It totally does. Also, if you haven't yet, you really need to buy the Notary Knowledge books by Derek Spruill and visit the Notary Knowledge website. We're going to be talking about his stuff quite a bit today.
Yeah, his 8-book series, the Notary Knowledge Reference Guide and Notary Bible series, is just, it's essential.
It really is. So what if I told you that the only thing standing between you and a scammer, like legally stealing your home, is a metal staple and a single drop of ink?
It sounds like an exaggeration,
Right.
right? But when you actually look at the mechanics of property and contract law, it's a terrifying reality.
Usually when we think about a rubber stamp, there's this expectation of just, mindless bureaucracy. Think of a post office.
Yeah, exactly.
You hand over a package, they stamped it, toss it in a bin, and move on. It's an automatic action. We just assume it's low stakes.
But step into the world of legal and financial documents, and suddenly that simple rubber stamp is basically a vault door.
Right. Today, we're doing a really fascinating exploration into the surprisingly intense, meticulously regulated world of notaries public.
Because we want to frame the notary not merely as a person with a stamp, but as a critical frontline defender against fraud. Especially if you're a novice or entry-level in this field, this is stuff you absolutely need to know.
Exactly. Our mission today is to look at 3 high-stakes scenarios. We're going to talk about navigating foreign language documents, mastering the physical security of loose certificates, which will tie into our Foundational Fridays topic, and the really strict protocols for fixing mistakes.
And like we discussed in prior episodes, it always comes down to 2 foundational things, right?
Yeah.
Verifying a signer's identity and confirming their intent.
You got to know who they are and that they understand what they're signing. But a massive dilemma comes up when the notary and the document don't speak the same language.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge issue.
Imagine you're a notary. Someone walks into your office and hands you a 20-page contract written entirely in Mandarin, which, let's say, you don't speak.
Right.
They have their ID, they're ready to sign, but you have literally no idea what is on those pages. Do you stamp it?
Well, to figure that out, we have to look at what a notary is actually responsible for. You aren't validating that a business contract is fair or, that a loan has a good interest rate.
No, not all.
But you have absolute 100% responsibility for the notarial act itself, which means a foreign language obscures critical details and it turns a routine check into an unacceptable liability.
Yeah, because even if you aren't reading the fine print, you still have to perform an initial assessment.
Right? You must locate the signer's name in the text to ensure it matches their ID. You have to check the document date to make sure it isn't post-dated into the future.
And crucially, you have to make sure there are no missing pages or blank spaces.
Because a blank space is just like an invitation for someone to secretly add fraudulent text later.
Exactly. And if you can't read the language, you can't tell the difference between a standard paragraph break and a deliberately left blank line meant for a hidden clause.
So if a notary cannot confidently identify those elements, they just have to refuse the notarization. The risk is too high.
Now, people might think, well, why not just pull out your phone and use Google Translate? Or have the signer bring a friend to interpret?
Yeah, that seems logical, but the legal frameworks anticipate this. That's why there is an absolute prohibition on third-party interpreters in almost all states.
Which makes total sense. Think about the power dynamics. If the person signing brings their own translator, there's an immediate conflict of interest.
As a notary, you have no way of knowing if that translator is relaying the information accurately.
Right. The signer could be signing away the rights to their house, and the translator could be telling them, oh, it's just a standard tax form.
The risk of miscommunication or straight-up coercion is massive. State laws dictate everything here, though, so there are a few exceptions.
That's Arizona, right?
Yeah, Arizona explicitly permits interpreters, but they must be physically present. You can't have someone on speakerphone. And Florida requires that the document's nature and effect be translated before the notarization begins. You can't just do it on the fly.
So it seems like notaries generally fall into two camps here. The
Mhm.
first is risk aversion. You just refuse anything you can't read.
And the opposing view is the adherence to ministerial role framework.
Hmm.
This is the belief that, hey, we notarize signatures, not documents.
I like to use a bouncer analogy for this. It's like being a bouncer at a club, but the ID is written in a fictional language. Even if your only job is to check the data on the card, how can you do it if you can't comprehend the characters?
Exactly. So the ultimate best practice rule is, when in doubt, refer out. Find a notary who actually speaks the language.
But wait, if a notary does decide to proceed, where do they put their stamp? Because the pre-printed certificate on the paper is probably in that foreign language too.
And you cannot sign a certificate you cannot read. States like California and Texas explicitly ban the use of foreign language certificates.
So what do?
You must attach a loose certificate.
Which moves us right into our Foundational Fridays topic, loose certificates. Let's talk about the physical mechanics of fraud prevention.
For anyone entry-level listening, a loose certificate is just a separate sheet of paper that contains the formal, state-compliant wording for an acknowledgement or a jurat.
And an acknowledgement is when someone declares they signed willingly, while a jurat requires them to swear an oath that the contents are true.
Right. And you don't just use them for foreign documents. A common trigger is missing wording. Lay people draft documents, leave a blank line, and expect you to stamp it.
Which is illegal.
Completely. You have to attach the statutory wording. Also, statutory noncompliance. Like California requires exact wording. Hawaii requires a highly unique certification statement.
You might also just run out of space on the page for your stamp, or have too many signers. In all these cases, a separate sheet is mandatory.
But the protocol for attaching it is super strict. The notary must physically staple the certificate to the left's margin directly behind the signature page.
I gotta pause here because this feels incredibly outdated. In a world of digital signatures, the ultimate defense against legal fraud is a metal staple. They strictly prohibit paperclips.
They absolutely do.
What could a bad actor actually do with a paperclip certificate?
Well, consider the power of that certificate.
Yeah.
Once it's signed and stamped, it's a golden ticket. It's a state-backed seal of authenticity. If it's held on by a flimsy paperclip, document swapping becomes effortless.
So you're saying someone could take a legitimate document I signed like a background check, slide the paperclip off, and clip that notarized certificate to a fraudulent deed transferring ownership of my house?
Yes, they could attach it to a fake deed, a fabricated will, a massive loan. That is why the staple is mandatory. It leaves physical damage if removed. But the staple is just the first line of defense. The notary must also create an unbreakable legal link with their pen.
Oh, right. Writing "See attached notarial certificate" on the parent document.
Exactly. And on the loose certificate, they have to write a specific description of the parent document, the title, the date, the page count, the signer's names.
So if a scammer rips the staple out and attaches it to a fake deed, an auditor will see the certificate says it belongs to a 2-page background check.
The fraud falls apart instantly, which leads to invalidation. If you attach a loose certificate, there's usually an empty, unused certificate block on the original document.
And leaving a blank certificate block is like leaving your keys in a running car. You have to draw a neat line through it and write "See attached certificate."
If you don't, a bad actor could take that same document to a corrupt notary and get a second fraudulent notarization on the same page.
Also, never mail or distribute a blank, unattached loose certificate. It becomes a weapon for fraud the second it leaves your site.
We are looking at a truly analog fortress here. Staples, cross-references, lines. But human error happens. So what do you do when a pen slips?
Well, the golden rule is absolute. A document can never be altered by the notary after it has been notarized and returned to the client.
Once it leaves your presence, your authority to touch it is gone.
But there's a difference between minor and major errors, right?
Yeah. For a minor error, like a typo, if state law permits, the notary can draw a single line through the error, write the correction, and initial it before the client leaves.
And we really have to emphasize this for our novice listeners. Using whiteout is universally forbidden.
Never use whiteout. It hides what was there originally, making it look tampered with. A single line shows exactly what the mistake was.
But what about a major error? Let's say I did an acknowledgement instead of a jurat, or I just forgot to stamp the paper.
You cannot just fix it. You must conduct a complete re-notarization with a brand new certificate.
Wait, really? If I checked their ID perfectly but just forgot to press my rubber stamp, I have to make the client drive all the way back to see me in person.
You do, because the state doesn't care that you almost got it right. The act requires the simultaneous convergence of the signer, the notary, the document, and the seal in physical space and time.
If the seal wasn't there, the act wasn't completed.
Exactly. You can't stamp it 2 days later when they aren't in front of you.
That is brutal. The signer reappears, you re-verify ID, create a new journal entry. Florida even requires photographically reproducible black ink and forbids amendments once parties separate.
And you have bizarre state anomalies, too. In Texas, notaries cannot perform signature witnessing.
Why ban just watching someone sign?
Texas favors strict categorization. They want the higher legal standard of an acknowledgement or a jurat. There is no middle ground.
And then Michigan repealed statutory certificates entirely. Notaries just write their name, date, and county.
Which is wild. And this incredible variance is exactly why we recommend Derek Spruill's 8-book series.
Yeah, you can't just wing it.
No, his curriculum dedicates specific days to these exact issues. Monday is operational excellence, Tuesday is fraud shield, Friday is law and liability.
Speaking of real-world scenarios, it's time for our segment. Good question. What would you do?
Yes. Okay, first up, Owen in Colorado asks, can I use heavy-duty tape instead of a staple for a loose certificate?
Absolutely not, Owen. Tape can be peeled off with a hairdryer or solvent without damaging the paper. It has to be a staple.
Bella in Michigan asks about paper size. Does my loose certificate have to be on legal size paper?
No, it just needs to be a standard size, usually letter or legal, whatever matches the document or state standards. Just, don't use a sticky note.
Right. Mason in Texas wants to know about a seal cross. Can my stamp overlap the text of the document?
No way. You cannot stamp over signatures or important text. If there isn't clear space, you've got to use a loose certificate.
Ruby in Georgia asks, what if a document requires both an acknowledgement and a jurat for different signatures?
Then you need to ensure both notarial acts are properly executed, usually with separate certificates or very specific combined wording, if your state allows it.
And finally, Levi in Virginia says, a client brought a document with the incorrect statutory form pre-printed. Can I just cross it out?
Yes, cross it out with a single line, write C attached, and attach the correct loose certificate with a staple.
Great answers. And dealing with all of these scenarios properly really ties into Derek Spruill's 2026 enterprise rebrand, adopting the slogan, Integrity in Action.
Integrity in action. That perfectly encapsulates this entire system. The metal staple, the single line, refusing an interpreter, these are physical manifestations of integrity.
They are deliberate actions that preserve trust. Without these strict, seemingly analog rules, the entire system of contracts and real estate would just collapse under the weight of fraud.
It really shows that notaries are the active guardians of legal integrity. Which brings up a provocative thought to leave you with.
Oh, I like these.
As our world moves increasingly toward remote digital transactions, like the e-notary topics covered in Saturday's reading of Spruill's books, consider how these physical principles are going to evolve.
Yeah. How do you translate a metal staple into lines of code?
Exactly. How do you ensure that unbreakable link when there is no physical paper to invalidate with a pen? Will digital security ever truly replicate the psychological weight of a face-to-face oath?
It makes you wonder if a digital lock can ever be as secure as the human eye.
Definitely something to think about the next time you sign on the dotted line. Well, that's all for today. Email your questions to derek@derekspruill.com. We will try to answer as soon as possible at the end of our shows.
And a big thank you to our team. Credits go to executive producer Derek Spruill, lead writer Marylyn Lee Trotter, graphics by Eddie Montes Travis, and music by Thomas Bynum. Produced by Magnificent Workers Business Solutions.
Don't just be listeners of the knowledge, be doers of the knowledge. This is Notary Knowledge. Until next time.
Are you an aspiring notary looking to join millions of other notaries? Start your journey with the Notary Public Foundation by Derek Spruill. This essential guide provides the step-by-step process to becoming commissioned in your state. Don't stumble into the role. Walk into it with confidence. Grab your copy of the Notary Public Foundation by Derek Spruill on Amazon today.